In 1943, it was one of our strategic aims to draw as many German forces as possible away from the Russian front and French coastal areas and to contain them on the Italian peninsula while liberating as much of Italy as might be possible with the means at our disposal, calling for the full measure of his courage and devotion. The response of our Fifth Army troops provides an inspiring page in our military history. To these individuals, living and dead, and to those who now continue in their tradition, this picture is dedicated.
About 50 miles northeast of Salerno, in the southwestern region of Italy, lies the small town of Oliveto, Sitra. Today it is a normal and quaint town, with around 4,000 inhabitants. But 80 years ago, this part of the world was witness to an event that would change a young Native American named Ernest Childers for the rest of his life.
The advance never got more than 600 yards past the line of departure.
The Germans had a couple of things going for them. First was the simple fact of being on the defense in Italy. As any military theorist will tell you, the defense is the strongest form of warfare, and they had the ability to maximize their advantage. Because second, the Germans could use the terrain of southern Italy, which was a defender's paradise. To top it all off, they had good weapons, and the linchpin of this was the MG42, which fired about 1,200 rounds a minute, and the 7.92 millimeter round that it shot could go 3 miles and go through any US Army issued helmet. A ferocious weapon which could throw out just sheer volumes of lead and keep an entire enemy platoon pinned down, which would allow their riflemen to close in for the kill. And in a sense, going up against this gun would be suicide.
Now you have to understand, most Native Americans in those days were proficient in forests and fields of the Great Plains, or the rivers and seas for the coastal peoples. Childers was no different. He could move through brush as fast as any city kid could peel down the street.
But the important question was this: who was this man, Ernest Childers, and what made him take action on what seemed to be a suicidal mission? Ernest Childers was born in 1918 in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and was a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. One of 5 boys, Childers and his brothers grew up in extreme poverty, an economic reality very common in the Indian reservations of the time.
You have to remember, this is turn of the century America. While the big cities are pushing and advancing with factories and organized labor, this was not the case in rural Oklahoma, a state that was mostly run by agricultural business, crafted small goods, and a lot of oil.
In 1907, Oklahoma gains statehood. Soon after that, the bulk of creek lands and resources were lost, sold to make ends meet, or foreclosed upon to pay property taxes to the newly founded counties. Childers, one of 5 brothers, thus came of age amidst widespread impoverishment. His father, a lawyer, died when Childers was 12 years old. By then, it was the middle of the Great Depression. Between that and the bleakness of the Dust Bowl, poverty was all over the state. Most people had a devastating time surviving, but it was even worse in Native American communities.
Now, Childers couldn't have gotten the worst end of the stick. Being raised in an impoverished community like the Creek reservations, he witnessed two very bad economic turns: the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. The Great Depression devastated financial institutions in the larger cities in the country, so there was no working capital for factories or to pay for materials or workers. Massive unemployment rose. And in Oklahoma, the situation was even harder due to the incredible drought of the Dust Bowl, except for native resiliency adapting to tougher circumstances in the previous century.
So as a student at Chilocco in 1937, Childers, by the suggestion of friends who also enlisted, joined a National Guard unit which had been organized at the school. It was also as a means to earn some extra income. Childers graduated from Chilocco in 1940 and decided to stay with the National Guard. By then, rumors of war were in the air. The Nazis had started their lightning wars, or blitzkrieg, and were taking over most of Europe. Of course, in America, a clash with the old continent was on everyone's mind.
So by 1940, you have a world that is mostly at war everywhere. Italy has invaded Ethiopia, Northern Africa, and Greece. Germany has overrun Czechoslovakia, Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Denmark, Norway, and France. In East Asia, the Japanese had already invaded China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, and only Britain and its empire stands alone against the Axis threat. So the US is in a major conundrum. Do they help the British fend off the German wave, or do they sit this one out?
Most native men back then were good hunters, and all the training that he had as a kid trying to save bullets made him an excellent marksman. He could shoot a rabbit at 200 yards, so a German sniper was a much larger target, as well as an enemy.
Now, any normal person at this stage would have given up, pled exhaustion, and just taken a moment to enjoy the success. I mean, he just single-handedly took on 2 machine gun nests and 2 snipers. But this was war, and you didn't have time to have a beer and celebrate. You had to move up and secure that position.
That made Childers the first Native American awarded a Medal of Honor since the 1880s. He was granted leave, returned to the US, and met President Roosevelt at the White House.
Childers' story is not only one of bravery in combat, but also of honor and duty towards your fellow soldiers. If he wouldn't have taken initiative that day in September 1943, who knows how many men would have died trying to take Oliveto, and how much it would have halted the Allied advance. Because of men like Childers, others were allowed to live.